Polish Cates by Ludwig Bemelmans. The next day after breakfast we go over to the barn to inspect the chickens. While Mr. Schilling goes inside, Eddie shows me a torn rubber boot in which he has hidden a pint of whiskey. He winks and says, "For tonight you'll be surprised, Luddy." The escape in the morning light, or the landscape in the morning light, is lovely. The air is biting and clear, the horizon wider than yesterday. All objects, even the faraway ones, stand out in clear line and strongest color, almost as if looked at through the sharp lenses of a field glass. Gurley is joyful at the still new return of Eddie, and gallops through the snow with foolishness and sudden stops with all four paws outstretched, takes a mouthful of snow and eats it with joy as if it were ice cream. But country is not country without a horse. Of course, Mr. Schilling is glad he can have the chickens, the dog, and his food in order and paid for. His is not an easy life, I think. Feed for the fowls is high. He does not get much for eggs, must clean, grate, and pack them, and the farmers around have their hair cut only once in 6 months. Mrs. Schilling comes out of her house, then goes in again. She works without ever halting, and since I have been here she has not spoken more than the greetings when I came. Yes and no, good night, good morning, and the 5 times repeated, "Get me some water, Eddie." She seems not unhappy, and is just made the way she is. Eddie has told me that he knows a house down in the coal region where women are kept. He says the most beautiful girls in the world, more beautiful than the widow even. But I am afraid all women are alike to Eddie, because again these girls have the eyes which he described last night as belonging to the widow, and also the bosoms 2 feet in front of them. But we will see. In the meantime, it is very exciting to wait for this. When the light changes, we say goodbye and drive off. The car is open for a while. It is bitter cold, and we have to drive a long time. And then appears the most beautiful dreck I have ever seen. The snow is smudged, little houses are unbelievably dirty, but with much character and warmth. In small towns rise the steeples of Russian churches with onion tops, and behind all this are mountains of black coal with blue lights playing on them. The shapes of crushers rise as high as the towers of Neuschwanstein, and much more forbidding. Beside the road flows a river, also black. It is as if all the colors had run out of this corner, except a rusty red, black, and indigo. Wherever there is a poster, a lamp, a firebox, it sings out its color and makes the black blacker. Then we drive up a hill into a town over railroad tracks. As sad as the moan of Eddie's dog is the sound in the night of the bell on American locomotives. It is like a pulse beat of loneliness, but how beautiful are the engines below. The signal lights have the electric color of Christmas tree glass ornaments. The rails are silver, and the swinging lanterns, the voices of men who shout at each other, all this belongs rightly in this picture. Past the bridge, a little higher up, we turn past a gas station and drive into an alley where Eddie leaves the car. He has been quiet all the way down. He says we need $1 each, and that he has a girl in mind for me. Not his kind, he says, but just right for me. We come to a house in a narrow alley, in which all houses are such as the one we enter. Eddie is known here. The girls there are 2 in a little room in front that looks out on the alley, put their arms around him and lean on him, and he is very proud of this ease and welcome. He pats them on the backside and says to me, "Have I been lying, Lundy?" He hasn't. The light here is dim, but the girls are young, have smooth limbs, firm bosoms, and big eyes. It happens hereabouts that Polish men marry Irish women, and from them come children that are pale-skinned and very beautiful. Eddie goes downstairs and says he will be right back. He is going to see if Julie is in. That is, the girl he has for me. But she is out, and the 2 girls in the hall say, "Why don't you take either of us, at least until she comes back?" But Eddie comes up through the door, and on his hand is another woman, and he says, "No, you don't know what's coming. You sit here and wait, Luddy." The woman with him is again beautiful, really so. She is obviously mostly Slavic, with a very rich body, not one that would look well in clothes on the street, but so generous and warm that it makes the blood hammer at my temples. Her lips are moist, the eyes black, her skin clear and white. Eddie slaps her on the wide haunches, and they walk up a narrow stair. "You wait there until she comes, and don't give her more than I told you," says Eddie, and disappears with his women. There is a foolish little sofa with a summer slipcover on it in the entrance hall where I am sitting. On the right of it, and so hot that one can only sit on the fat end of this couch, is an iron stove, small with a round belly and heated to glowing in the most beautiful color. The room is about 10 by 11 feet, but the heat goes up mostly. In front of the stove are the two girls. They lean out onto a box that is built onto the window out on the street, so they can look up and down. When a man passes, they play a small pantomime and knock and then wipe the film of vapor from the pane so they can see again. From where I sit, I can see them. They have bare legs in mules, two loose robes as if in a bathhouse draped around them. They lean forward with their legs wide apart, and in this position is much sensuality. It also portrays how much they love the warmth of the oven in back of themselves. From below comes a mixture of voices and the cry of a baby. There is wallpaper in this room that I will never forget, just as anything I will see and feel in this house will always be with me. I have never been so beautifully nervous on any day of my life, and I have lost the sense of guilt which I felt walking up to this house. Then Julie comes in from the dark street. She is again what Eddie promised, not more beautiful than the others, who are lovely, in the manner of peasant girls. She has slim heels and a finer face. I do not know the rules of behavior here, whether I am to introduce myself and how to ask her, but this is all done for me. One of the girls says, "He wants you," and she says without looking, "Just a minute," and disappears downstairs. She had a raincoat buttoned high with a belt in the center, ashen hair, and a hat like a southwester that sailors have. When she returns, she has a long, simple, emerald-colored dress with a small ornament that catches the folds of the dress in the center of her loins. The dress is exquisite in cut, and I wonder how it can be bought by girls who cannot have much money. Besides, it is in the best taste. "Come on," she says. She has a strange voice, and I wonder whether there is a spell in this house, that all things seem so wondrously beautiful. The upper part of this house is divided into compartments, many of them with thin walls. We come to one in which Julie turns on the light. She holds out her hand first of all. "Give me the money," she says. I give it to her, more because $1 seems disgraceful. I'll get you change afterwards," she says. In this partition of the house is a bed. It has a mattress without a cover and a pillow covered by a waxcloth. There is a chair, a bureau with a stack of towels on it, about 20 of them. On the chair is a basin. A stout colored woman comes in and fills the basin with water. There is also a little glass jar with some disinfectant in it, and from this the room smells of carbolium. On the floor are 6 different kinds of linoleum, small pieces put together like in a game. Pasted on the wall are pictures of John Barrymore, Jack Holt, William Farnham, Pauline Frederick, Norma Talmadge, Mary Pickford, and Theda Bara. They are cut out of rotogravure sections, and their cheeks and lips are colored with rouge. From the ceiling hangs a naked electric light bulb on a black wire and a piece of black electrician's tape along the bulb. It is obvious for what reason I came here, but then again I feel like a child. What is the next thing to do? I must look at her. Even in this unkind light, she is so beautiful. I sit down at the bed. She lies down next to me and folds her arms under her head, and then I do the same. Afterwards I turn my face and look at her, and she turns her face and looks quietly with her eyes looking at my mouth. Outside are the coal hills, the ring of the train bell, and there must be a stable in back of the house, because I can hear the sound of horses when they change their positions. The ceiling of the room at which I look is painted blue, a light color with much white in it. Most probably a bad job by anybody around the house, but because of that, it has the marks of the brush and is nice. My long problem with life on earth is here again. I think that it is not like Schopenhauer says. I think that in this life we have few and far apart, completely wonderful happinesses. Here and now is one such moment, in which all things are right, even the 6 pieces of linoleum on the floor, the coal hills outside, and the bells. Who would ever come here to find it? Such moments come not only in love. I have felt them at concerts, mostly when the orchestra, after its fullest playing, leaves a space of silence between the pulses of the kettle drums, the pause between the dull thuds, half a second apart, of 2 soft booms on the copper drums, which often happens in Wagner music, and is filled with melody. There is not a sound. The quiet pauses between words, here with Julie, were like that. Through the thin wall next door come voices. There are another man and a woman, and some of the talk is silent. But when they speak loud, it is again in words that belong so well in this house. The woman talks most of the time. She is apparently jealous of some other woman. And the pieces of talk go like this. And there we will pause.